Hello everyone, this is Waylon Miller in the great state of Alabama. I just wanted to get on here and share a little bit today, this morning. It's a beautiful morning in Alabama, sunshine and uh, still pretty hot weather though. Uh, my last video that I did a couple of days ago was talking about Carol and I's struggles we had in Birmingham. Not long after we'd been married, I went to dental lab school, dental laboratory school, and she had a job that she dreaded to go every day. And we finally got out of that after 2 years. In the meantime, we had our first child, Josh, and but we got to move back to Fort Payne, and I spent 5 or 6 years in that dental lab business, and with the help of a dentist in Rainsville, Alabama, who really supported me and encouraged me and taught me some things. But like I said in that first video, it just wasn't what I thought I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so we got back to Fort Payne, and several years passed. During this time, I did get a job with an insurance company that I really enjoyed. Really enjoyed helping people, and made more money in those 2 years than I'd made in my whole, that I'd ever seen before. And won a cruise trip through that company, and Caro and I enjoyed that. But not long after that, I stayed in that 2 years, but again, there was a company in Fort Payne called V.I. Pruitt and Son Hosiery Mill, big conglomerate, had several off branches to that. One of the companies that I went to work for was called Johnson Hosiery, and I was hired as let me say, first of all, they offered me a sales job, and I knew I wanted to take it because I wanted to get involved with that, but it just wasn't for me. We had two kids playing ball, and I was their coach, and I just told them, I said, listen, I'm not going to be happy, and therefore you're not going to be happy. So I'm gonna pass on this right now, and I did. I walked away from that offer, and but luckily, several months later, I was offered a quality control job with the same company, Johnson Hosiery Mill, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the people. Stayed there 6 years. Uh, and I thought did a good job, and undoubtedly they did too, because they offered me a job as general manager at a company, a multi-million-dollar hosiery mill, uh, that some friends of mine, I knew the people that owned them. Actually, I had worked for the Bobby Cole, who owned part of John Cole, was the general manager of Johnson Hosiery, and they offered me that job, and I took it, and I really had to learn stuff that the decision-making process was pretty much through me then, and that was one of the hardest things I ever had to understand was, and that gets a little bit more in the story. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But I spent about 7 years there, and I really enjoyed it. But like I said in the first video, I was still having people tell me when I could work, when I could take off, and I just didn't like that. So I kept looking, and Carol and I found a little small hosiery mill. I mean, I think it may have had 8 or 10 employees. I mean, very small, and it was for sale. And I knew the person that owned it, and I told Carol, I said, I feel like the Lord is leading us in this direction, and if we ever want a business of our own, I think this is the opportunity we need to take. My mother was still alive then, and she told me, she said, son, what in the world would you want to leave the job you've got to start this? And I said, well, that's just what I want to do. In the first 2 years, I thought my mother was right, because it was a struggle. It was really, really tough starting out in a small industry. But one thing I had done in the process of this before I made this decision was I went and talked to other companies, and a good friend of mine who was a manager of Cooper Hosiery, he said, we'll use you. And so I already had that kind of lined up before I turned in my notice. But I really enjoyed all that. I learned so much. And then I left that, and like I said, started my own business called C&W Hosiery. And Carol and I spent, there's no telling how many hours we spent there the first year or two to getting that thing up and running. But we did build that. It was this little small mill. We built it to we having 90 employees at one time, and we were doing very well. Probably one of the best 7 years of our life as far as freedom. I mean, it was hard work, but we did enjoy it. But later on in the early 2000s, You may have heard of a thing that the Congress passed, or government passed, called the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, which basically killed the hosiery business in Alabama. It took a while for it to really get going, but a lot of people lost their jobs. It was just not very good. And so therefore, but luckily, or I call it God's grace, there was some friends of ours that had a good meal. They did a lot of stuff on their own. They did a lot of customers on their own, which they didn't have to rely on other people. I may not understand what I'm saying, but I do. But anyway, they had their business caught on fire, and it was an old building out of the path, and it burnt. And so they were looking for a place, so I ended up selling our hosiery mill about 2 years before everything went south. I mean, a lot of mills shut down after that, but I financed part of it for 10 years. So we got to sell our stuff, and I consider that a blessing. And we were making a little income from the financing part of it for the next 10 years. And we just enjoyed it. Enjoyed the freedom. So we sold C&W Hosiery, and I didn't really go back and get a job. Carol was still teaching at the time, and so we had insurance and stuff. But later on, we had the wild idea we were going to build a coffee shop, and it was called Three Beans Coffee Shop. And we served lunch every day, and had a good business. It wasn't something that I really wanted to do. It was something that my two boys thought they wanted to do, and Carol wanted to do. And Carol had taken a leave while we got that started. And then my two boys got married and moved off. Carol went back to school, so the coffee shop was left with me. But I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed meeting the people that came in and out from different states, different cities. And they always had a story. And I loved listening to them and talking with people and learning their background, their stories. So we did that for a few years. We were kind of a little ahead of our time in a small town like Fort Payne. A lot of them use they get their Maxwell house or whatever, but we had a good time. We learned a lot. And but we ended up selling that, and we sold the building. It's still in being used in a good way. And then a few years later, we had a wild hair of my brother-in-law called me and said there's some people in Rainsville that's got a business for sale, and I thought you might be interested in it. This was during COVID, and the business was shut down. They even had the power turned off. It was a popcorn shop, and I had never in a million years dreamed of having a popcorn shop. But we went and looked at it and talked to her, the owner, and Carol and I talked about it, and I made her an offer that I thought there's no way this lady is going to take this offer. But I made her an offer, and next thing I know, we owned a popcorn shop. And we stayed at Rainsville for about a year or so, and then we found a building in downtown Fort Payne where we brought the business to. And after about 3 or 4 years, I guess it was, we sold the building, and then we sold and financed the business side of it. And the company's still going good. The young couple that took over, I say young, they're younger than us, but they're excited. They're growing and doing great things with it. And it just worked out great for both of us. And that's the best scenario you can ever have, is when you sell something or do something that both parties are happy with it. And so we really enjoyed that. And we still go to the popcorn shop and get popcorn and cookies, and they have boiled cookies that I love. I love those things. So we still enjoyed that, and that's kind of where we are today. This is kind of what got me into this YouTube thing, because even though we had all that success, we still didn't do a good job planning for the future of our retirement stuff, and that's the reason that I'm enjoying listening to YouTube people talk about their experiences and mistakes that they made. And that's the one reason we were doing this. And I enjoy it, for one thing. I love telling stories. I love telling things about that we've happened and experienced, and I love hearing other people talk about theirs. One thing I forget to do every time I do a video is I would like to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also share this video, because that's the only way this thing works. People need to see this, and it may not be for you particular, but it may be for someone else that you can send it to. And I'll just appreciate you if you do that. And there again, I just thank everyone for listening to this, and I hope you have a blessed day.